Hello and welcome back to WD18, the Watford fan channel. And it's good to be back talking about a new signing, we hope. And today I'm joined by Blades fan from the Sheff United Way, Mr. Oli Beastly. He's been on the channel before. We've talked about Chris Wilder. How are you, Oli, and how are you feeling going into the new championship season?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, things are going okay in terms of the new season. And no idea what to expect as yet. We've done some quite exciting signings, but we've also got half a squad. So who knows? It'll either be, if our first 11 plays, will be brilliant. If our first 11 doesn't play, it'll be a disaster. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
We might talk a
How are
bit.
you doing?
Yeah, all good. I don't think we've had the transfer window you guys have had, but we might talk about that a bit later on. I think we're playing you guys quite early on
Yes.
in the season. But yeah, we're here to talk about Mr. Yasser Larouci. Do you think I've got that pronunciation right?
Uh, I'll be honest, we spent a season and you heard so many different versions of it. I think more commonly than not, we got Larouci, but I think Larouci might possibly be closer to the truth, if I'm being honest.
Larouci, very posh, you guys up in Sheffield. We have just done an analysis thread on our Twitter from Henry, so make sure you go and check that out. That goes into more detail about his game and how he compares to our left back last season, Jamal Lewis. But yeah, just a bit of background before we ask Oli about him. He's 23. I think he's French, but he's from Algeria descent, and he's been playing for those guys on the international stage. He has played for France's under-21 team. He's a left back, can play left wing back, obviously left-footed. He grew up at Le Havre, quite a well-known French academy. Then Liverpool bought him. And then he played for Troyes in France, and then obviously Sheff United last season. So, Oli, tell us about you guys signing him last season. What was the deal? What was the fee? And how did you feel about it at the time?
Yeah, it was a really interesting one, to be honest, because it was last summer was a really interesting one for United because we had a very clear plan. We said last summer what we're going to do is we're going to bring in relatively young players on cheap deals and we're going to let them grow through a season in the Premier League and either sell them on for profit or use them when we come back into the Championship. So Larouci was one of the players that we brought in with that in mind. So he came in on loan. It was a loan to buy. So if we'd stayed up, we would have been obligated to purchase Yasser Larouci. But yeah, it was an interesting one. So at the time, we didn't know what to expect. He had a decent pedigree, like you say, from coming in at Liverpool. I think people had talked about him as being exciting. The main thing that we heard more than anything else is fast. I tell you what, wait till you get him in. He's fast. And his season with us was interesting. He joined,
Okay.
obviously, just on loan. It's a huge step up. And you have to give everybody the benefit of doubt with this. It's a massive step up coming from obviously playing in France, playing in the under 21s, to then playing in the Premier League. I think his debut was against Manchester City. So immediately you're on the back foot and fans are judging him. We were playing really well that day. We 1-1 with City, 89th minute. He gets the ball in our box and you think, clear it, just get rid of it, smash it anywhere. He chose not to smash it and they scored immediately from that decision. And it was really difficult for him to recover from that. So fans were on his back from that point onwards. I think he had some really positives. And there were some games where you watched him and you thought, oh, there could be a player here. So there's definitely something in him. Aston Villa away, he was a standout. Obviously, he was up against, I think it was Leon Bailey. And you think, wow, this is a player here. He's going to get torn apart. We were really negative going in, but he held his own. He played really well against him. He limited what he'd got. And so he's definitely got a player in there. In terms of his style, in terms of how he sort of comes together, he tries to dive in. He's going to do everything he can to be a front foot defender, charge forward, win the interception, cut out the pass, beat the man as early as possible. But unfortunately, that, as you will well know, leaves a huge hole behind you. If you've got a left back who pushes forward and doesn't win that interception, teams are going to get in behind you constantly. So you've got to make sure you've got a good cover. So if you've still got Hurt, for example, who's going to be on that side behind him, you've got that cover, which gives him the opportunity to be a front foot defender. So maybe that would work in terms of obviously the kind of style that you want. In terms of his speed, and this is the least analytical thing that anyone's ever going to say. And I'll openly say that at the start.
Love it.
He runs weird. and I can't quantify it. I can't describe it properly, but he runs weird. And so he's almost top heavy. So he feels like he's almost hunched a little bit as he runs. And that body shape means that he is quick, but he's not rapid. He's not devastatingly fast. You do see that he's got something there, but he never feels like he's properly getting the most out of his body. It never really feels like he's let everything go and he's just sprinting. It always felt as though there was something holding him back. And so it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, he didn't play loads for us, so maybe with more game time, maybe when he's familiar with the system, maybe just getting that match fitness back might give him the opportunity to do that we never really got the chance to see. Going forwards, he's an enigma. Some of his crossing was bizarre to see, where you just thought, how has he even managed to kick it there? Don't understand what he was trying to do for the ball to go there. But then again, at times he could put it in. He was quite offensive. He wanted to get forward. He has the right idea. He doesn't always follow through on it. So it was an interesting season with him. Lots of fans were quite negative about him. But by the end of the season, everybody else had been so bad that I think he does get a bit of a pass. In our team, it was impossible to look good. But yeah, he's got some flaws in his game, but some things that might be quite exciting if you can find a way to get the most out of him.
Yeah, gave me some bad flashbacks of playing Man City in the Premier League. And it's funny you were saying he's fast, but is he Premier League fast?
Yes.
So give us a bit of context for the season. Obviously, you guys had Hecky to start with, and then our friend Chris Wilder came in. Am I right in saying Larouci played about 11 games? Did he start the season and drop off? And which manager fancied him? And also, where did he play? Because Tom Cleverley's going to be playing a 3-5 kind of three at the back, wing back. So it looks like he'll be a left wing back. So did he play as a 4 or as a wing back?
Predominantly left wing back for us, because obviously our system from Chris Wilder, we still were playing 5 at the back. We started the season with Heckingbottom, so Heckingbottom again took us up with 3 defenders, 2 wing backs, the standard Sheffield United system as it is these days. And we had a really interesting season at left back. So we wanted to start the season with Reece Norrington-Davies, but he'd had a serious injury, so he wasn't able to play. We thought that Max Lowe would be our first choice, and he would play the majority of games. In the final friendly before the season started, he fell over a sprinkler and twisted his ankle, so he was out for a month. So then we'd got Larouci as our only fit, able to start left wing back. And so we then went out and recruited Luke Thomas, who came in on an emergency loan. He was there from the deadline day basically until December. So we had loads of competition for places. Larouci did start as our first choice. You thought that he was going to be the one who was in the team, the one who was going to be the player who took us forward. He was never massively fancied. So after the Man City game, he just never really found his feet. And every time he was playing, you could almost feel the sort of anticipation of a mistake from the fans, and that really weighed on him. So he didn't play very often under Heke, and once Luke Thomas had come in, he superseded him and became the first choice. Once Thomas had left in January, we had then got Max Lowe and Norrington-Davies. Well, Norrington-Davies were never fit. He played 1 game, did his knee again. So he played once. He would have been first choice. Lowe played the majority. But under Wilder, Larouci did play more. Okay. He had a good performance very early on in Wilder's sort of time with the club, that Aston Villa away game. And so he earned a little bit of trust. He earned trust from the fans and he earned trust from the manager. So he played a lot more in that system with Chris Wilder, playing left wing back with a little bit of an expectation that we wanted him to be getting forwards more and offering more in general play. But, again, one of the things that was almost the hallmark of our season is under Heckingbottom, we were very defensive and we lost 3-0. Under Wilder, we were slightly less defensive and lost 5-1. So it was very much it didn't really matter what we were doing. Our defense was just so easy to play through. Now, I'm not saying that when Larouci played, he was the main problem, but he was never a standout defensively. He was never able to really show anything in terms of defensive qualities under Heckingbottom or under Wilder. But under Wilder, he did at least have the opportunity to show that he could get forwards a little bit, even if it didn't mean anything ultimately. The main problem we had last season was fitness. So under Wilder, we were actually all right for 30 minutes in every game, but then for 60 minutes, we're knackered. It became a joke towards the end of the season. We'll play well for 20 minutes. We'll miss 5 chances. We'll maybe go 1-0 up. We'll concede to the opposition's first shot and we'll lose 5-1. And it happened it must have happened 7 times between like March and the end of the season. It was just bizarre watching how often the same patterns just happened time and time again. And no player was able to change that, least of all Yasser down on the left wing.
Sounds like Chris Wilder's had a tough couple of seasons. We'll get to his time at Watford in a bit. Larouci, could you give me his biggest weakness and his biggest strength?
Yeah. His biggest weakness is if you're going to be pushed back into just a flat defensive structure, he's going to be erratic in how well he can hold that. So if you try and play a flat back 5 and you say, right, we're going to cede possession, you're going to come on to us, and then we're going to see what we can do, that's not going to suit him defensively, because it's going to mean that those erratic moments when he steps out leaves your defense completely isolated behind him. So I think I'd watch out for, if you're expecting yourselves to be trying to do that, he's probably not the man for you. But on the plus side of that, if you're going to try and get on the ball and you are going to try and be sort of pressing up onto teams, you're going to try and push other teams onto the back foot, you're going to want to dominate the ball. And when you lose it, win it back quick. That's where he's really going to come into his own, because that's always going to be his style. He's going to want to be pressing forward to try and win the ball as fast as he can. He's going to try and cut out the interception. He's going to try and get to his man immediately. And so it's almost two sides of the same coin. It's the same. The weakness is also his strength, depending on how you use him in the system.
It sounds like, I feel like we saw a bit under Tom Cleverley, especially against better teams last season like Leeds and West Brom. We were very much a transitional team, so that might suit his game, kind of nipping it and counter-attacking. However, he sounds like he's going to fit right into a rash Watford defender.
Yes.
And just to finish on him, what do you think of the potential loan signing that we're making him, and him playing in the Championship as opposed to what you've seen him in the Premier League? Because we both know it's an entirely different beast.
It's completely unforgivable in the Premier League. You just cannot, as soon as you get caught, you're done. And that didn't suit him. He needs some time to just get himself match fit, to really get himself embedded. I quite like it as a move, if I'm being honest. I think the Championship probably is his level. I think it's probably where he's at currently. I think if he can get settled, he's moved around so much in his career so far that he's never truly settled anywhere. So if you can bring him on loan, maybe it goes well and he can stay. I think there is definitely potential there for him to develop into a good player. I would worry about the games against, like I look at Leeds and you look at, say, Somerville. I don't like that matchup. I wouldn't want to see that. So yeah, I like it. I definitely think there's potential there. I think there's definitely an opportunity where you would say, yes, he can do a job for us. But when you look to kick on, let's say your season, I don't know what your aims are or how you visage the season for Watford at the minute, but as an outsider looking in, I think this is going to be a fairly disappointing season of consolidation. You're going to be looking at that kind of mid-table cluster, maybe the lower mid-table cluster. I think he'll do a job for you in there, and he'll be able to be part of that team. He'll be somebody you look at and you say, yes, he's steady and he's done a job. When you look to kick back on, to go to look at the playoffs again, to look at maybe progressing back towards the Premier League, he's the kind of player that you'd probably be wanting to upgrade against.
Okay, interesting. No, thank you for that insight. Let's talk a bit about Mr. Chris Wilder, our friend. So when we last spoke, he was coming in at Watford as the third manager, I think, in the 21, 22 or 22, 23. They all just roll into one.
Yeah, it was not last season, the season before. So it must have been 21, 22.
Yeah, that's the one. So he came in, he said all the right things, and I think he set up the team. I even spoke to him on a couple of occasions. I think his big issue was kind of the squad, the mood around the squad. We'd just been, that was after we were relegated, so there was a couple of bad eggs in there. And he did a lot of good coaching with Alan Neil, set the team up right, got onto the pitch, and the players just decided to do something completely different. But I think a lot of Watford fans really appreciated probably his honesty in the way he spoke about the players and the club, something that other managers haven't done. When I saw him returning to Sheffield United last season, pretty surprised. But tell us how you think he done and how you feel about him leading you into this season.
So I think it's clear. I came on here, like you say, when he was coming to Watford, and I was so positive. I told you all the amazing things he was going to do and how much you were going to love him. And I think I made you a promise. I said, I will promise you that he'll get you in the playoffs this season. And it didn't.
Promise, Oli.
Yeah, I broke my promise immediately. And so obviously I have so much respect and so much sort of admiration for everything that Chris Wilder's doing in his career, and especially for what he did at United the last time he was with us, taking us from League One. And so everything that I say from here on in, I want to be noted that it's said with the utmost respect and admiration for probably the biggest legends that our club's had in my lifetime. He's not the man for me. He wasn't last year, and I don't think he is now. It's I was shocked when he came back to the club, and I say that not because I'm shocked that he'd been able to fix his rift with the owner, not because I'm shocked that he'd sort of wanted to come back to United, but I think we would be the only team in the Premier League or the Championship that had taken a gamble on Chris Wilder last season. I don't think anybody else was giving him a job, least of all giving him that job to try and save you in the Premier League when everything's sort of down and out already. We did show some signs of improvement when he came in. You know, I talked about the difference in style between him and Heke. Results didn't really change. We were still getting battered. It didn't matter who was playing or what was happening. We just got battered by just about everybody. But he did at least give us some belief. So after he'd come in, we were trying to attack. For 30 minutes, we were competitive with teams. We were scoring goals. We were at least able to say, look, we could have done something here if we had some fitness and we had some commitment and players that didn't just throw the towel. I'll not rant. So there were certainly green shoots and positives. Now, what United have been trying to do, and I mentioned it before, our recruitment policy last season was to look abroad at where we're going to bring in value. That's not Chris Wilder. That's not his style. It's not how he's going to try and build a team. So we've come to this summer, and you can see again, we've lost so many players. I think we've had 21 leave through contracts and sales and everything else. We've recruited 6.
Bernie's gone to Gran Canaria, hasn't he? Love it.
He has. He's gone off to Las Palmas, which is a very fun move. I mean, that wasn't what I would have predicted at the start of the season, but each to their own. But with so many players going out, it's very much somebody's got to rebuild the club. And I'm not sure that this is the summer where we wanted Chris Wilder reshaping Sheffield United, because we know what we are. We know what we were under Chris Wilder and how special that was. You don't catch lightning in a bottle twice. You don't just do the same things. And so unless we see a drastic change in terms of our style, in terms of our tactics, in terms of how we're going to attack this, I can already see the same problems coming up. I can see in the recruitment that we've gone purely domestic. And so we're already looking at players coming in on potentially big wages, people who are available because of potential injury issues in the past. You can just start to see the picture building of we are trying to do the same things we've done before, but I'm just not sure it's as sustainable a model. We've seen last time that it had a limit, and once we hit that limit, it nosedived very quickly. So I am praying that he gets everything right again. And if there's any man who I would want to get it right again, it's him. There's nobody if I could pick anybody in the world and say, it's going to go right for Sheffield United, who do you want to be the man who leads that? I want it to be him. But I just have lost some of that belief that I've had previously. And I think that there's a chance this one all ends in tears.
I mean, what I'd say coming from a Watford perspective, and like when we got relegated from the Premier League last time round, we tried to keep hold of all of our best players who had just been in a bad environment, who all went down. So we didn't. And I look at your recruitment now. Am I right in saying Callum O'Hare, Kiefer Moore, who's the recent one? Burrows from Peterborough.
Burrows.
So, like, I look at that recruitment and I think that's a lot more of a low risk strategy than kind of trying to keep hold of other players or going abroad in the Championship. So I'm actually quite high on you guys this season. But just to end up then, tell us what you think about your transfer business so far. I mean, us at Watford, this is why we're doing this video, and you've probably seen that we're worried. It's been short and it's been some interesting signings, but I think you guys have done some good business. So tell us how you're feeling about your transfer activity and how you think you guys are going to do this season.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Individually, every player we've signed, I am delighted with. Harrison Burrows, I think, is a fantastic player to come in. Callum O'Hare done it at this level for a number of years with Coventry. Clearly a very talented player. Kiefer Moore, I've wanted United to sign him for 6 years. I remember him tearing us apart with Barnsley once.
Team.
Everybody's like, just get us Kiefer Moore, we'll probably be okay. So individually, the players we've signed have been great. And actually, our starting 11, we've got some gaps in it, but for the most part, we're going to have a very strong starting 11. You know, we still need a goalkeeper. We still need a right back. The signings we made in the Premier League last season haven't worked. You know, we brought in Ivo Gerbic to be our number one from Atletico Madrid, and he's useless. I was going to try and be kind, but I changed my mind halfway through. I was like, no, say it as it is, Ollie's useless. So he's just nowhere near the level. So it's probably that last season's number 3 might start this season as our number 1, unless we get some recruitment done. There's talks about Michael Cooper from Plymouth, which would be a really exciting signing. Another one where the individual would be great. Right back, we've got a gap. You know, we've sold Jayden Bogle to Leeds. The only replacement we've brought in is a squad man, effectively, in the player we signed from Leeds, whose name I've just completely forgotten. He's injured. Jamie Shackleton. Thank you.
Yes,
so we signed Jamie Shackleton from Leeds. He's going to be the right back cover initially, while obviously we look for a replacement for Bogle. Some talk about Kiana Herver might be coming in, who was at Stoke last season. Again, could be great signing. So we are filling the gaps in our starting 11, and our starting 11 will be very strong. We've just got no depth in the squad. So, like I say, currently we've got last season's 3rd choice keeper and a keeper who somehow in a 3-horse race would have been my 4th choice to play for us. Like, there's just no way he can be. So if there's a problem, say we sign Michael Cooper and he's just coming off the back of a serious knee ligament injury, if he gets the knee ligament injury again, suddenly we're in a real sticky position in terms of who's going to be in our net. We've got potentially signing 1 right back, but after that, it's down to the under-21s and the academy. Centre half, we've got Anel, we've got Robinson, and we've got Austin Trusty, 3 centre backs. If we're playing 3 at the back, that's it. That's all we've got. We've got 3. Again, 1 injury, you're immediately down to the kids, the under-18s, and it's the same story all the way through the pitch. The striker is almost the one that almost goes under the radar, because you look at it and you say, we've signed Kiefer Moore, a really great addition. He replaces McBurney. You've got the same, but you know, Cameron Archer's left, so he's no longer with the club. Daniel Jebison's left. He left in the summer to Bournemouth. And so suddenly you look at our striker options, and we've got Kiefer Moore. He's not going to be able to play 90 minutes, 46 games. That's just not possible. He's not going to be able to do that. Behind him, we've got Will Asula, who's a young player from our academy. He's played, I think now, around 36 games for United, and he's scored 3 goals in the FA Cup against Gillingham. We've got Ryan Brewster, who's got 6 in 75. So all of a sudden, you look at those striker options and think, I don't see any goals. So there's big flaws in the system beyond the first 11. So my prediction for us is that I think we will finish 6th. I've been relatively saying I think it would be a good season, and we should be happy if we can finish 6th. I think our starting 11 would be up there with sort of the top 3, 4. But because of injuries, because of the massive drop-off behind them, unless we see more recruitment and some serious recruitment in terms of, I'm talking 7, 8 players that are all capable of filling out our squad, it's going to be a real battle to try and cover behind the injury issues. So I'm going to say 6th, but with a huge margin for error that could be 2nd or could be 18th.
Wow. Yeah, I've seen that kind of range of different predictions. So interesting insight. Ollie, thank you so much for coming on. I think we're you guys on September the 3rd. I'm best man at a wedding that day, but I think it's on Sky on a Sunday, so people can watch. I don't know. Well, I don't think we've done too well at Bramall Lane in recent years, so hopefully it won't be too disastrous. But thank you so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it. We've got our predictions video coming up on Monday, of the big predictions video, which we failed miserably last year. And then before we play Millwall for the first game of the season, we'll have a kind of season review. So if you like the video, drop it a like, drop it a comment with what you think about the new signing. And yeah, subscribe on the way out. Thanks, guys, and up the Hornets.